Voy a presentar a la última ponente, Adriana Costas Santos. No tengo tu papel, Adriana, así que voy a leer de aquí del teléfono. A sus 24 años se unió a la Plataforma Ciudadana para el Apoyo de los Refugiados en Bélgica como voluntaria durante varios años. Ha sido condecorada en febrero de este año con el premio Young Human Rights, el premio de los derechos de los jóvenes, que se otorga a jóvenes que son reconocidas por la calidad de su trabajo en derechos humanos en Bélgica o en otros lugares. Ahora es copresidenta de la Plataforma. Adriana es sobre todo una joven activista comprometida que pasa gran parte de sus días y noches entre el Parque Maximiliano y en la puerta de entrada de Ulises en Aren. Instaló en la Estación del Norte la oficina de la Plataforma en Yete, para tratar de garantizar que las personas solicitantes de asilo o refugio no duerman en la calle. La Plataforma Ciudadana para el Apoyo a los Refugiados en Bélgica nace como respuesta de solidaridad a las y los solicitantes de asilo. Tiene como objetivo construir una solidaridad con la migración, la denuncia y la lucha contra el estado actual de las políticas migratorias belgas y europeas. ¿Bien? ¿Sí? ¿Cuento el resto? ¿Sí? Bueno, muy bien. Esta plataforma busca, entre otras cosas, creación de canales de migración seguros y legales, una moratoria sobre el reglamento de Dublín, mayor supervisión de las actividades de Frontex, ampliación de los criterios de la UE para otorgar el estado de protección, consideración de las recomendaciones para el futuro de las asociaciones de migrantes y colectivas y el cierre de los centros de detención de inmigrantes. Ahora sí, te doy paso.
Buenas tardes. Yo voy a hablar en inglés porque el español no lo hablo muy bien. I'm Adriana. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for inviting me. I'm going to talk to you about the Belgian situation at the moment and the association that I'm coming from, the Citizens Platform Supporting Refugees in Brussels. The platform was created in 2015. At the moment, we were observing a welcoming crisis. We like to call it like that in Belgium. Some hundreds and then thousands of refugees coming from mainly Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan were arriving every day to the capital of Brussels, and the delays to claim asylum and to get a center where to wait for the asylum procedure were very long, and so some hundreds of people were stranded in this Maximilian Park, which is actually a urban park right in front of the foreigner's office. At that time, very spontaneously, citizens from all over Belgium came over to bring tents, clothes, food, very basic stuff to provide to people while they were waiting to have a public center. And very quickly this park became a village inside of the city of Brussels with directly coordination team, a team for juridical and social help, school of languages, a school for the children, mainly with volunteers keeping children while the parents were doing administrative stuff, and this park stayed until the end of 2015. It is at this moment that the volunteers who gathered around this park went on and created an association. It's the platform, and we occupied a building not far from the park. At the time, we found an agreement with the government to get pre-hosting places for all the people who were arriving every day. And we went on all the year of 2016, accompanying and supporting asylum seekers in Belgium. I will get the time to explain that a little bit later, but since in Belgium the regions are very different, the way of welcoming asylum seekers is also very different, and so what is provided to people when arriving there, it's pretty different. So an asylum seeker can spend 2 years very far from a city without any opportunity of transports or learning languages or getting in contact with local people, and other asylum seekers can be in a super center with language classes and different activities. And so to fill that gap, we went on proposing language classes. Since it was an organization exclusively run by volunteers and without any subsidies, we could also have a mixity of experiences, and so putting together in the same French class refugees, asylum seekers, migrants who were just passing by Belgium, or even people who were in Belgium for 15 years without learning the language, which allowed them also to share experiences and to learn more than simply the language there. In the end of November, I heard you were talking before about the dismantlement of Calais, of the jungle, which is actually not far from Brussels. We observed the arrival of newcomers in the Maximilian Park, right in front of the Foreigners Office, and this time people were mainly from Sudan, Eritrea, and Ethiopia. If in 2015 the people who were arriving, they were mainly come from the traditional route from Turkey and then Greece and then the route of Balkans. When they were arriving to Belgium, they were actually able to claim asylum. This time, Belgian government was insisting on strictly applying the regulation of Dublin, which makes that people should go back to the country where they got in Europe. Maybe I should not say that, but when the Dublin regulation was we thought that people would arrive with humanitarian visas, probably with an airplane, arrive directly to the country, emitting a visa, so it would be actually a way of coordinating or bringing solidarity to the distribution of asylum seekers between the countries. Today, what this thought or this law production could not preview was the arrival from the sea. And so, of course, all the people arriving in Belgium, they have forcibly to go back or to Spain or to Italy or to Greece. And in this way, the Belgian government finds the way not to take care of the situation. I was looking at numbers that Chiara was presenting in her presentation. In the Belgian case, we are talking about something like 500, 600, 700 people. It's really, I mean, a country like Belgium could perfectly take that amount of people in charge in very good ways, but the only reaction on summer of 2017, when the volunteers of the platform went back to the park to give some food, clothes, sleeping bags, basic stuff to survive on the streets, the Belgian government organized the repression of the people there. And so while we were bringing these kind of things, the government was organizing raids in the morning. In this park, there was these 400 to 500 people sleeping on the floor, and the police was coming in the morning. Dozens of policemen arriving from the four corners of the park, waking up everybody to try to arrest as much people as possible. At that time, since everybody had to run away to save their lives and not to go to detention centers and be deported to Italy, to Spain, to Greece, or to their country of origin, because meanwhile the Belgian government was doing an agreement with the Sudanese government to the political I don't know how to say, refugees being deported to be welcomed by the Sudanese government, which is actually has been already condemned by crimes against humanity 2 or 3 times. And so at that time, since the people had to run away to save their lives, everything that was being collected and then provided and then distributed by the volunteers was left behind. Some of those people were having to run away without their shoes, without their sleeping bags, without the little things they possessed, and cleaning services of the city were passing by after the police and destroying everything we were collecting. At that time, we organized a sleeping bag challenge, which allowed us to collect more than 500 sleep bags and to provide at least ones to everybody who was there. And right after, these raids of police destroyed more than half of what we had collected. We organized a team which was coming in since the police was coming at 7 in the morning, and Maximilian Park, it's situated in the north neighborhood of Belgium, which is actually a services neighborhood, so there's not a lot of people living there. So when the police was coming at 7 in the morning, there were only the people who were living there. And so we started coming at 6 and to give people the time to wake up, to put their shoes on, to put their backpack and run away. And at that time, the police operation started to get more and more soon and more violent, and it got us not only the chance to give people the time to wake up peacefully and to move, but also to take pictures, to make videos, to denounce what was happening far from the population side, and to put everything in our Facebook page, on social networks, and to denounce what was going on. Is at that time that we realized that people who were constantly being arrested on those raids were the ones who were less able to run. And so it was women with children, old people, hurt or sick people who were constantly getting arrested by the police. And it's at that time that we proposed the citizens, in order to protect them from this situation, to welcome them in their houses. If at the beginning we started by hosting 7-8 people, we were gathering at the Maximilian Park in the evening and proposing the citizens to come over and to propose 1, 2, or 3 places to sleep for some days. Suddenly we had more families and citizens proposing to host than vulnerable people, if we actually can say that, because in the end, we end up finding places a couple of months later to more than 500 people who were in the park, and actually emptying the park in the end of the evening. This mobilization also allowed us to put some pressure on the public authorities, to invite the NGOs, which were actually way more used to the fieldwork or competent than us. And we created at first a humanitarian hub with many different NGOs to provide medical help by Doctors of the World, psychological help by Doctors Without Borders, tracing service to from the Red Cross, which for people who get lost on the way, or who lose contact with their family members on the way, and the platform providing social accompaniment and information about asylum demands and following asylum seekers on the procedure. And at the same time, we started calling to the public authorities to do something about the situation. What happens in Belgium is that the federal government is competent of the migration agenda and decisions, and the regional power is competent for homelessness. And so, since the federal government is tendentially extreme right and wants to make of those 500 people the instrument of fear and of intolerance that is being shared on the political speech, the regional government could give us some help to actually open a center and host every night 350 people on that center, 350 men, and the rest of the people are being hosted every day by the families. If we started by a quick reaction to emergency, if we all started by bringing some basic stuff to allow these people to survive, very quickly we all got conscious of a reality which most part of Belgian people would just live parallelly if they did not get in touch with this reality. Most part of the people who reacted to host one night realized how complex and full of obstacles was the asylum system made of, how surrealistic the organization of Dublin rendered people's lives, how the fact that all those people are undocumented allows completely impunity for the forces of order. We know that in only for the year of 2017 until September of 2018, more than 700 complaints were sent by the volunteers to denounce police violence. It's maybe useless to say that all of them were archived. Well, they were not. They didn't follow up the complaints, but more than 11 people died in Belgium, some of them running to escape police on the highways. And most part of these people, since they are they passed from these three countries of entrance on Europe and are not allowed to claim asylum in Belgium, or almost impeded to. Most part of them, they are on their way to the UK. And what we realize is that not only that there are some mechanisms that are doable to make it doable to claim asylum with the support of the citizens, which went themselves to get informed about asylum rights and foreigners' right to then inform the people arriving to Belgium. And that allowed also to deconstruct some of the smugglers' speech, which is actually the single source of information that people arriving to Belgium have today. And so most part of these citizens who probably 2 years ago did not have any idea of for example, the difference between an asylum seeker and a refugee as a word. Today, a kind of schizophrenic taken in charge of the situation is happening in one side with more than 15,000 people getting mobilized to welcome, to support, to host in their houses, to drive to other people's houses, to accompany, to doctors, psychologists, lawyers, all kind of professions getting engaged in this huge mobilization movement, and on the other side, a very hysterical political speech talking about these people as trans migrants, illegal, criminal, clandestine, and making that as far as some regions are from Brussels, as unknown this problematic is, and the speeches of hate, of fear, of intolerance are being listened every day and being understood from people that never went to Brussels, probably never got in touch with this reality and didn't take the chance to meet them. Last May we had elections, and of course the extreme right parties went on trying to make of this subject the subject of the elections. Somehow, hopefully, we had the climate crisis taking, being in front of all the political debate at that period. But still, we got a divided country with Flanders voting 40%, well, 20% for extreme right, and 20% others voting for an extreme right, which is saying that it's actually not extreme. The French part of Belgium voting tendentially to parties that actually want to take in charge this situation and bring more humanity to political decisions. And I'll stop here, and then we will went on talking about, hopefully. Thank you.